Most good things are birthed out of something not so good. Something's wrong and something's being lost because of it. Jennie Allen knows. This pastor's wife and mom from Austin, Texas, is here to tell us how she became stuck. That's the title of her first DVD-based Bible study, Stuck, the places we get stuck and the God who sets us free. Well, I want to find out how you got stuck and what that felt like and looked like. But Jennie, first, welcome from Austin. You live in Austin.
Yes, I live in Austin.
Where your husband pastors.
Yes, yes.
And I just love the names of your children. Connor, Kate, Carolyn, and Cooper.
Yes.
Like that should be a singing group, don't you think?
They could be. They would love to be a singing group.
Just too cute. How old are they?
They are 11, 9, 6, and 4. Life is full.
I bet. I bet. Now, how did a nice girl like you find herself stuck? And in what way stuck?
Yeah. Well, it's funny, you know, that word, we didn't brainstorm a catchy name for this Bible study. It was just exactly how I felt at the time. And I looked around and I felt like I wasn't alone. A lot of other people were feeling the same thing. And I don't think it was something that happened all at once. I think I probably always was stuck, honestly. And I met God at a young age. I wouldn't say I completely saw him and came to a saving knowledge of him until I was in high school. But I look back, and even then I struggled with the same things. And you know, even today, it's having processed all that I've processed to get to this point where I felt led to put this in a study, I still struggle with those things. You know, it's anger and fear and insecurity. And I think all of those things were inside of me. I remember I was talking with a counselor. We were going for some life counseling. It wasn't even deep soul counseling. And he looked at me, and I told him a little bit about what went on inside of me, these feelings of insecurity, of fear, of feeling anxious. I was so anxious. And he said, you know, that's not normal. And I thought, what do you mean that's not normal? It's the way I've always thought. I've always had these thoughts that come almost, I wouldn't even say it's daily, it's more moment by moment of just worry about, often it's big things, more often it is what people think about me, how I'm coming across.
Bingo.
Yeah.
I think that is the bigger issue. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a troubled world. There's a lot to be concerned about.
Sure.
But I think in our Western culture, we live in such a pressure bubble, such a performance pressure bubble.
Yeah.
That certainly God never intended. And I think being a nice Christian girl,
Yes.
church girl,
Yeah. I
just
looked like I had it all
adds to
together.
it.
Nobody knew I was struggling like I was. Nobody did. And I don't know that I was trying to hide it. I don't think I was deliberately being fake or anything. I just didn't realize what a problem it was, because on the outside of my life, I was pleasing everybody, and I was put together, and I was meeting everybody's expectations. So because I was getting check marks somewhere, I felt like I was doing okay. So nobody pushed me to think about my soul and how I was inside, which is so ironic, because when Jesus came to this earth, there was nothing he was more concerned about than the invisible state of people's souls. It wasn't their performance. In fact, the people performing, those are the people that he often was calling out, that he was most frustrated with, because they didn't understand that their souls and their hearts and their insides were all in the wrong place. And so it was troubling that so many years of my life, I felt like I was doing okay because I was measuring up to everybody's expectations. And inside, I was just this wreck. I was a mess. And until I came to terms with the fact that that wasn't pleasing to God, that before God, I was worshiping so many other things besides him. I loved other things a lot more than I loved him in my soul.
But it's subtle, isn't it?
Oh, it's so subtle.
I mean, for your neighbor friend who's been living a really desperate life, and everybody knows it, it's much easier to get real.
Yeah, but I think what's so sad about that is is we're all in the same place. I mean, what's causing that person that is, their life is truly falling apart on the outside to hurt and to struggle? It is the same thing that is causing me as a pastor's wife and a mom in the carpool line to fall apart. We are both struggling with the same thing.
It's sin nature.
Yeah.
The world, the flesh, and the devil gets
we're
everybody.
we're all scared. I mean, we're all living this life, and none of us are really so sure as we probably appear. There's always, at least in me, there's always a wrestling, and so the study, I don't know that you land on answers the way that typical things would. I mean, to some degree, I'm still wrestling through this. This is not completely figured out yet. I'm not completely unstuck.
Jennie?
But I will say this, being honest about what I struggle with has been transformational.
Liberating.
Yes, to say to somebody, I feel anxious and it is holding me captive. My husband and I started the church that he pastors 5 years ago. He birthed this thing, and it was the most difficult thing we've probably ever done. I was on display. All of a sudden, I was on display even more than I had been with people that were coming to check out our church. And I remember being awake at 2 a.m. every night for probably about a year. I would wake up in the middle of the night and I would worry. And it was physically taking a toll on me.
Worry about the success of the church?
I would worry about the success of the church. I would worry about if we were measuring up, if I was measuring up with all the people in our lives. What would happen with our kids if this didn't work out? Would we financially be able to make it? You name it. I built so many things that I dwelt on and cared about and worried about. And that went on and nobody knew. And I don't even think that I realized how messed up that was. I mean, that was a year of my life that I was losing sleep and not trusting God. And yet I was probably, honestly, teaching Bible studies at the same time. And,
oh, sure.
Right. And
the performance must go on.
Yes. And so there was a breaking point. Thank God. I just praise him that he let me break where I couldn't do it anymore. You know, this wasn't going to work. And I felt how empty it was to worry like that. And
like, if this is the Christian life, I don't need it.
So that year was the year that I gathered 8 friends in my living room and I said, okay, am I the only one that is feeling this way? And of course I wasn't. Everyone, the first day we go around and I ask questions, honest questions, every one of them is struggling with similar things. And none of us knew it. And we were great friends. And so then a problem is revealed. This is a problem that we are all pretending that everything is okay. And I'm up every night at 2 a.m. That's not okay. That's not what God intends. And so together we started just wrestling through. I didn't want to just turn to medicine and I didn't want to just turn to a counselor. I have no opposition to those two things. I believe God uses those two things at the right time in life. But I wanted to go to his word and I wanted to see what he had to say before I ran to other things.
Was there a liberating truth, verse, moment?
Unbelievable, yes. I think it began, you know, every time Jesus was with sinners and he would leave them, he would end with one word. He would say, repent. Over and over again, he said that. And I don't think I ever knew what that word meant. I probably had been taught that word mentally, but to come before people, to come before God and to confess my sin. I don't know that I had ever really done that. And
now what is the sin? Self-reliance? People-pleasing?
Well, for me, the sin had become that I cared so much more about building this life than I cared about God. And
how am I coming across?
How am I coming across? How is my life going to work out for me? I needed it to all work. I wanted to be happy, and when I wasn't happy, I felt like something was wrong. And so all of these things had become gods to me, little gods that I worshipped and was bowing down to at 2 a.m. in the morning when my brain would just go crazy worrying about them. And then I would read verses like, if you have any other God before me, this is the greatest of sins. The first commandment is you love me above every other thing. And I didn't. And I needed to admit that, and I needed to confess that. And as I went to him, and it wasn't just a confession of sin and then it was done. It was this constant recognition that I need God at 2 a.m. in the morning. I need to wake up, and when I'm feeling those things, they're not going to go away, but God can meet me in those things. He is real enough. I don't think I had felt him press into my soul in such a real and tangible way to fix me. I believe that I had confessed him with my mouth, and I had done so many Bible studies and listened to so many sermons, and I intellectually knew who he was. But to feel him come into your soul when you are struggling and aching and hurting is a beautiful thing, and that starts a relationship that is different than one that is just a Bible verse that you memorized when you were 12, and you're trying to stuff that in. You're trying to make you feel better, but somehow it doesn't. But to have a real living God meet you at 2 a.m. in the morning when you're wrestling and hurting and struggling and insecure and afraid, that's different.
And to be practicing the presence of God moment by moment.
Yes,
to be enjoying
depending.
Jesus. How can you possibly get on that rabbit trail and get yourself out undone, right? If he is your present.
If you believe God is real and heaven is coming and it is forever, that changes you. That changes everything. And I think that I had to get to a point where that truly had unsettled me in a way that it was controlling my life, that it wasn't something that I verbally assented to, but it was something that undid me when I woke up in the morning. And I met him, and I thought, I want to live for you. I don't want to live worried about the few invisible thoughts of a few people. I don't want that to be the controlling force of my life. And it had been up until that point. So yes, it wrecked me, what I found. And honestly, it wasn't a verse, it wasn't anything. It was that I think God, in his grace and his provision, just revealed himself to me in a way that was so real and tangible, and I'm just thankful.
Wonderful. Wits End Corner is a place of blessing.
Yes.
When we turn to him.
True, yes.
He had so much more for you. Were the women as prepared to be honest, to be open and get real?
I think so. I think
it's a different kind of Bible study when you go for the heart.
It is. It is. It's scary. I think it's the scariest thing in the world to confess sin, because we'd much rather go to Target and be on Facebook checking status updates than to
Shopping
deal
therapy?
with sin. Yes, but dealing with sin is a difficult thing, and yet it's always right with us. It's always there. And so when these women, when they were pressed there, it came out like a waterfall. They were so ready to be known, and I think on our deepest level, we want to be known and we want to be accepted for that. And the beautiful thing about grace is that is the provision for that. The church, God, what Jesus did, that should be the most gracious place on earth, because we actually get to be imperfect. We get to be broken and stuck because there is a God who made a provision for us in Jesus Christ.
And your identity is no longer tied to today's performance.
Yeah,
it's
I'm working on it.
Jesus.
Yes,
right?
Yes.
You sounded pretty unstuck to me, Jenny. Here is just a part of the fabulous package. It's beautifully put together. This is chapter 3 on discontent. Nice color picture, and then leading you through. Very nicely done.
Thank you.
10-minute sessions on DVD?
Yeah, we really tried to rethink the way Bible study was done. I just think this is a different generation of women, and if for no other reason, we're just so busy. But we want to go deep, and we want to encounter God, and so we don't need to make anything surface or shallow. It needs to go to the heart, but it needs to go there quickly. And so we developed these DVDs and the curriculum in a way that is engaging and hopefully applicable to any woman, really, no matter what age.
Available now?
Yes, it just came out October 1st.
I know, it's pretty fresh.
Yes.
And Thomas Nelson?
Thomas Nelson, yes.
Very good. Well, and you've got a book coming out in April?
I do, yes.
Called Anything.
Yes.
Anything.
Yes. It actually happened about the same time. It was a prayer that my husband and I prayed of surrender and just trusting God in bigger ways, and He has delivered. He is causing us to step into lots of things that stretch us.
It's amazing what happens when the Lord gets all of us.
Yeah.
Beautiful things come forth. We're going to be keeping our eye on you.
Thank you.
Jennie Allen.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Yes.